Hello and welcome to the Top Agent Podcast. My name is Costa and I chat with top industry leaders in real estate to discuss their successes, tips, and marketing strategies. This podcast series is brought to you by Web for Realty, the leading provider in real estate marketing tools to grow your business. If you're looking to attract leads, build relationships, and close more deals, go to webforrealty.com to learn more. In this episode, I'm speaking with Rachel Dempster, a realtor in the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia, just outside of Vancouver. I was so thrilled to get a chance to speak with Rachel. She's providing some bombshell insights. She talks about how her primary source of lead generating is through her focus online and social media, but primarily through her unique blog content, which generates her at least 3 transactions per blog post. It's absolutely incredible. She breaks down the precise formula and strategy behind her blog posts. We also talk about her lead nurturing strategy and how she uses unique video content to promote her listings. I was really lucky to get Rachel on the podcast. She currently has 10 active listings at the time of recording this. This is a very valuable, very insightful conversation. So let's get right into it. Here's my chat with Rachel Dempster. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me on the Top Agent Podcast. Really excited for you to be here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Awesome. So if you don't mind, just kick things off. Just tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and where you're from and how you got into real estate.
Sure. So I'm originally from the UK. I moved to Vancouver in 2000, and I now live and work actually just a 40-minute ferry ride away up on the Sunshine Coast. My background's definitely varied, and I'm kind of glad I got into real estate a little bit later in my career. I'm 42 years old now, and I actually got my license in April of 2017. But I think all of my previous careers leading up to real estate has really helped me find basically my perfect job. I love my job. So I worked originally in London when I left university for Coca-Cola, actually, and probably some of the best sales training you could ever get for obviously one of the biggest companies in the world, and stayed with them for a while and then worked in advertising agencies in London. So worked for Publicis, 6th largest advertising agency in the world. And then when I moved to Canada, I went back to Coca-Cola. Then I opened up my own restaurant, so dealt a lot with customer service and dealing with people. And then I went back into video production, and I was an account director at taxi and advertising agency firm, and dealing with big clients like TELUS. And then I decided when I moved full-time to the coast that finally, after years of people telling me I should get my license, I got my real estate license. But realistically, I started my real estate career, I say, in 2000 when we moved here from London, because I strong-armed my husband after 6 weeks of landing in the country to buy our first apartment in Vancouver.
That's
kind of a long
That's awesome. That's quite the background. Thanks so much for sharing that. I did not realize you only had your license for like 2.5 years, I guess. So
yeah, I guess I'm technically a rookie, but I've moved up quickly, attained some goals that I didn't think I could get to. So like I said, I'm really happy and love my career. So
yeah, no, definitely could have fooled me. So I want to try and unpack that a little bit. So you're from the Sunshine Coast. I got to admit, I'm a little envious of you. Like I haven't had anyone from the Sunshine Coast on my podcast before. But as much as I hate to admit it, like I've never even been to BC, which is even worse.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's okay.
I know.
I've never been to Toronto, so that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah, no, I was just Googling Sunshine Coast and looking at the pictures, and it's just like, wow, like what am I still doing here? But no, I love having like different people from different backgrounds and communities, because I know your insights will be unique, and I'm sure a lot of people listening from other parts will be able to apply something they never heard before. So I think that's great. So like Sunshine Coast, like how's the market there overall? Like market size, like population?
Sure. So our population is 30,000 full-time residents, from Langdale to basically our Powell River. Now, I basically started there basically because I liked the fact it was a rural, smaller community. I'd lived in West Vancouver for 15 years, and, I absolutely could have gotten my license there, but felt like it was a saturated market with a lot of very well-known realtors. And essentially, when I moved to the Sunshine Coast 6-7 years ago, I felt like I had found my home, and I felt like it was a place I could absolutely sell. It's no, secret that the Vancouver market is and was incredibly insane in terms of pricing. I found that there was a lot of families struggling to obviously buy here. And I just wanted to tell a story because when I moved to the Sunshine Coast, even though I owned homes in Vancouver and was doing very well, I found that our family life just gotten so much better for living in a rural community, even though we're only 40 minutes to Vancouver. So I'll come to West Vancouver downtown. I'm sitting downtown right now, Vancouver. I'll come just for the day to meet with clients. So it's still very close, but the quality of living and the affordability is the huge reason why I basically became a realtor on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. So do you have to take a ferry across or can you drive?
Yeah, no, you have to take a ferry. So that's the delightful part about the coast is you got to commit to a 40-minute ferry. But for commuters, it's fantastic because, before I got my license and, talking to other commuters, you're basically an hour from Gibsons and Langdo, where the ferry terminal is, to downtown Vancouver. And the bus meets the ferry. So if somebody's commuting and working downtown Vancouver, instead of sitting in traffic, say, going out to, Surrey, White Rock, that direction, they could be sitting on a ferry, having breakfast, answering emails. They can start their workday early, and they tend to finish earlier too. So it kind of works out quite well. And obviously, I also sort of, there's a lot of advantage in this day and age that people are working from home as well. So, even if you have a job where you have to be downtown just 3 days a week and you can work, another 2 days from home, well, that's perfect work-life balance for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. We're a remote company, so I know all about that for sure. So I see you're definitely keeping busy with real estate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have like 9 or 10 active listings right now?
You know what? It's been an interesting year. This is going to sound crazy to the realtors listening. I haven't really wanted that many listings this year. I know that sounds really weird and absolutely opposite to what everybody teaches you, but because it's been a tough year in real estate, I have done just as many sales as I did last year, but probably more so with buyers. Listings this year have been certainly challenging in the market. And I actively haven't chased them the way I did last year, if that makes sense. I love my clients and I love my listings, and I don't like to carry too many because I like to service who I have. So yeah, everybody has a different way of going about it, I'm sure.
I see. So the active listings you have now, is that more than you usually have at any given time, or is that about?
No, probably a little bit less. Probably a little bit less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, and we're sort of running into sort of like November, December. So, I have a bunch of listings ready to go, but I genuinely don't encourage my sellers to list, December 1st, just because of the holiday season. So yeah, I try to avoid that a little bit.
For sure. So, do you mind if I ask, do you share how many transactions you've done in a year or a range?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like last year, obviously the Vancouver market wasn't great, but our market was still pretty strong up on the coast. Last year was my first full year in real estate. I did just over 32 transactions last year. By this time last year, I was in the top 100 realtors in the whole of BC, and that's over 20,000 realtors. So I was pretty happy. I was shocked, actually. I went online because my managing broker said, take a look, see where you're at. And I was like, oh my goodness, how can I be this high up? And I guess I didn't realize how hard I'd been working. I just thought I was still beating myself up thinking, well, that's not a very good number. In my head, I wanted to get to more, but that's kind of where I was at.
Yeah, okay, that's incredible. That's awesome. So I want to try and again unpack that. So let's start from the basics at the beginning then. So obviously it's, like you said, it's a lot of hard work. It's a huge buildup of networking, your database and contacts and referrals and all that. Right. But starting from the new lead perspective, because that's always like the most popular question among realtors and such. What are some of your strategies for generating and just stirring up new leads?
Right. So I'll sort of back it up a little bit. I think, so when I left the advertising agency, I worked with a client, and she was amazing. She worked for TELUS, and she was breaking away at her job, and she was starting her own little ad agency. So right out of the gate, before I even got my license, I started on my business plan. We sat down and we went back and forth, and we really built a solid plan. So my secret sauce actually is the blog that I run. It's not a common thing for realtors to do. It's often looked upon and like, why are you waiting? I get information from my, like, why are you wasting your time on this? But they have no idea that every blog that I write, I probably get minimum 3 transactions from it, if not more. They're the ones that I can basically measure, because at the end of the day, my blog puts out social media content, which basically builds my business. So I'm very much a firm believer in online marketing and social media, because that was my background. So from day one, I've hired somebody to help me with my marketing, because I definitely would not have time in my very busy schedule to run every single ad and to target and retarget and make sure we're going in the right direction. So that's a big piece of advice I would have for any other agent out there, is to make sure you get yourself some help, because if you are going to be busy and successful, you do not have time to do everything. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my blog. We basically, I want to tell a story of how amazing the Sunshine Coast is, because that's what happened with my family. It's an amazing place. And the whole reason behind the blog is to showcase how amazing the Sunshine Coast is, but also what's happened in these families' lives since they left Vancouver and since they've moved there. How has that impacted their family life? Like, what's changed? So what I generally do is I find a new family, and obviously in the beginning, I didn't have a single family of my own I could interview. So I went online, I found groups of people that recently moved, and I just said, hey, will you let me interview you? So what I do is I sit down and I interview them. I record the interview. I ask the same set questions, similar to what you do. It's just 5 or 6 different questions, and that's the recipe that I use in every interview. So I interview them, I go away, I write the blog, and then I come back and then I take photos with them. And then we put that content online, which they share with their friends and family, which other people thinking of moving to the coast read. And it's just basically a great way to, get yourself out there. And soon you become, a leader in your community of like, well, look, she's showcasing families that have moved here. And so that's one side of my blog, which is called Making It Work on the Coast. And then I have my other side to the blog, which is called Humans of the Coast, where I actually go and interview businesses. So interesting, cool businesses that have opened on the coast to really showcase, hey, you know what? We're not that small a community. And look what people are doing here. And again, in the same vein, that gets shared with their friends, their families online. And that's how I build business, and that's how I build referrals. That
is super smart. Very, very impressive. Wow. Just getting that viral loop with the content. That's incredible. So you're getting 3 transactions per blog.
At least. That's what I can measure to. But then I know other people are reading my blog when they come to sell. They're like, oh, she's, this is what she does. And obviously that's that's part of my secret sauce, I guess. And then the other side is obviously my history with advertising agencies and having learned all about Facebook and Instagram and how these, influence businesses and branding. That was a lot of my background. So when I go to list a property, I have a lot of tools in my toolkit that really help sell that property. There are so many realtors that will take a listing. Certainly in my community, there's still realtors that will take their own photos. It kind of horrifies me. You're getting paid a lot of money to sell somebody's home. I think you should be spending some money on marketing it. That's, it's only fair, and it's the right way to get the best price in the shortest time possible for any seller.
Yeah, for sure. So that's awesome. A couple of questions I have, which I'm sure a lot of people are curious, because, blogs is obviously a hot topic with realtors, and realtors are always encouraged to blog and whatnot. But, from your experience, just being successful in the content strategy part of it, like what makes a good blog? Like your concept is amazing, but like more specifically, like how many blogs are you putting out, like a week or in a month? Like how many words are in a blog?
Right. So, first off, your first question is like, how do I set up a blog and how do I make it, interesting? Well, you do have to find an angle, and I think you can find an angle in any market. For me, it was a personal experience, right? It was like, I moved my family to the coast and I soon realized this place is amazing. Everybody should know about this. So there was my angle. For other people, it may be just, talk about your neighborhood and pulling in the businesses in the neighborhood. They love that, right? And people want to learn about new businesses, new restaurants, what's their concepts. And really, the blog also, obviously, by writing the blog and putting it on your website, that's going to drive traffic to your website. So that's another thing that a lot of realtors really still seem to, and it amazes me today, it's like sort of, over 50% of people are looking online for their first home. And it's like, why wouldn't you have the best website you could possibly have? And then just learning, keeping your branding consistent. I see this all the time. It's like, you can tell when a realtor's hired a new company to do their marketing, and they, and this company does the marketing for 3 other people. This has happened in my town. 3 or 4 realtors hire the same company, yet there's nothing distinctive, nothing, they don't have their own voice. Then it becomes a blur. And content is super important. You think about anything that you look at online, you think about some of the best brands you see, they're constantly telling stories and they're giving you a reason to come back to them. So that's, people that have their Facebook pages, and I kind of cringe a little when I go to some of the seminars. It's like, well, you should post, twice a week, or it's like, well, what are you posting? It's not just about how often, it's what's their reason for coming back to you? So, basically I do on average 1 blog a month, just because I'm so busy. I'd love to do 4 a month, but I don't have time. And then in terms of other content, you need to have myself and, Amber, who I work with, we have a social media content calendar. So I know what I'm putting out that month, and then we'll pack it in with other relevant new information and articles that come up. But I'd say on average about 3 to 4 times a week for posting on your social media pages.
Love it. That's super helpful. Very insightful. Thanks so much for sharing that. That's incredible. So you shared on like how you get your leads, primarily through the blog and your content and the online strategy. That's sort of one step of it. But I think that like the real sort of sales process as a realtor starts after the lead is generated, with like the nurturing of the lead and how you handle it from that end. So after you get a new lead in your database, like what do you do next? Like what's your process for nurturing those leads that come in?
So I guess way back when with my Coca-Cola sales training, basically the customer always comes first. So I'm incredibly client focused. I want to make sure I give the best service. if they call me, if they text me. Often my leads come through Instagram messages, Messenger. I make sure I respond to them as soon as possible. Probably my easiest client this year, he sent me a message on Messenger. I responded within 5 minutes, and he said, I'm in sales. I knew you're the right girl for me. Like, you're on it and you're, ready to respond. Now, obviously we can't always do that. Sometimes we're out with clients, but I would say, it's hugely important to make that customer feel like they're the only customer. So even when I'm out with other clients, I try my hardest, not to take other calls. And I try and field them away until basically I make sure that client feels that they're special. And in the middle of a showing, I may go off and quickly text that person back and say, just out right now, I'll get back to you. But I think that's super important in customer service.
I agree. Do you have any, for example, nurturing campaigns that you put your clients in? Like, do you text message them every so often, or sorry, not clients, but the leads that you first generate who contact you? Like, are you nurturing them anyway? Or is there more of like a manual, more personable approach that you take?
Right. Yeah. So for me, it's definitely personal. And I will pick up the phone and talk to my clients who basically I have probably the world's biggest whiteboard in my office. And I am, there's some agents out there that are scared to write the names of their current buyers and sellers for fear of other agents poaching them. You know what? I'm confident enough to know that these are my buyers and these are my sellers. So I'm a very, very visual person. So I literally have the name of every buyer, who that I think is in that sort of A category that they're ready to buy now. I have them on my board. So I know that I'm going into my office and it's a very much routine thing to check in with certain buyers. Hey, anything changed? And, where we work, we have weekly tours in the different areas. So when we see, new listings come on, I basically have that list in the back of my mind. And I know when I see a house that works to reach out to them. So that's kind of how I work it. But I will absolutely admit I don't have a CRM right now. This is probably a product of me being so busy that I haven't had time to set one up, and that sounds really terrible, but that's actually how it is. So I actually am in the process of trying to hire an assistant to fix my email marketing, because I work with BombShell and video, and I'm like, they're constantly bugging me. You should be emailing your clients, and I'm like, I know, but I genuinely am almost too busy as it is, but I will and will be setting that up very soon.
Nice. Good problems to have. Good problems. That's great. So you have I think 10 listings now, let's just say, which is incredible to have at any given point, obviously. And you mentioned something interesting about how other realtors take photos with their phone, for example, when listing a property. But, what are some ways your listings stand out amongst hundreds of other competing listings, especially in a place as beautiful as the Sunshine Coast?
Sure. So I had the absolute best of luck to find somebody locally that could produce beautiful work for me. Obviously, coming from the ad agency world, I knew all about creatives and working with, video. So I knew out the gate I needed to find somebody. So Dolpha Mullen is a phenomenal photographer, local photographer up on the coast. He was just getting his feet wet with real estate. So what I did was we hired him, and we started, my video in the beginning was, we always, use drone where we could, if it made sense on the property and the listing, and really, pick my own music and get him to edit to the music. Now that was sort of in the very beginning. And then sort of working through it, I soon realized, if you look at the video stats online, that actually voiceover, really does amp up how many people are watching your videos. So currently no other realtor on the Sunshine Coast is doing their own voiceover. There's certainly one other realtor. He does a good job of doing video, and he uses the same guy to do his voiceover. But for me, I thought, well, hey, I'm a Brit. I'm in Canada. I have an accent. I should be doing my own voiceover work. So that's kind of what I started to do. And then we really, really saw the change in the viewership on those videos. So I will write the script. I'll give that script to Dolph, the videographer, and say, look, this is what I'm going to be talking about. And actually 9 times out of 10, before he even sees the script, we work so well together. He's already shot everything that I'm going to talk about. And he edits the video to that. And then when you're posting those videos online, you want to make sure that, you basically run the text as well. So, obviously a lot of people on their mobiles may be watching it while they're in a conference or at work, and they don't want to, put the sound on. So you want to make sure that they can actually read what they're seeing on the screen, so they can actually read the script as well, the narrative.
Yeah, I love it. That's it's a great approach, great idea for sure. You've been a realtor now for a couple of years, let's call it
2.5 years. Yeah,
2.5 years. But you've been in sales for quite a long time, a lot of experience. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in technology, like in sales and in real estate over the years. How have you been using technology, if at all, for your benefit? I know you mentioned a few apps that you're thinking about, or are you still just like too busy to even think about technology?
No. I certainly use, I signed up for BombBomb and I don't use it as much as I should. But I can absolutely see so this is, every year I set my new business goals. Next year it's like, use BombBomb, stop using email. I use HomeSpotter a lot. That's an app that we have here just to really help me. Like often I'm taking clients out and then, we all know that buyers sort of change their minds halfway through your tour and you're like, okay. And, you may divert off and show some other properties if you can set them up last minute. HomeSpotter is great to give you all the information on that. But they're probably my main two. There's certainly more that I intend to use. But again, like December for me is a bit of a reset, a bit of time with my family. So then when I come back in January, I sort of get, like I'm sure a lot of realtors do, get their speed on again in January and then pick up new stuff as we go.
Yeah, very nice. Good suggestions there. Another question I have, a common struggle I see realtors face is with time management. Someone like your spouse, like yourself, especially, like you're obviously wearing multiple hats and oftentimes like working on other people's schedules. So it's a tough balancing act, like on top of family and stuff. So do you have any tips that help you stay on track and productive with your time?
Yeah, I think I'm basically a workaholic, so it's kind of hard for me to give advice. Here's real estate in a nutshell. If you put the work in, you'll absolutely get the reward. So for me, I find I'm odd. I don't drink coffee. So like my wake up in the morning is actually before I even get out of bed, I'll probably spend a good hour on my phone, answering texts, answering emails. Like I find the moment I get out of bed and I properly start my day, that's when my phone really, really goes. So I suddenly wake up, before 7 a.m. I don't have to run my kids to school till sort of 8:30 a.m. So I find that 1 hour of like that sort of sets my day. And that's kind of in part why I need an assistant too. Just literally setting up tours and setting up my blog interviews and all this kind of stuff is time consuming when I know I'm trained in sales. I'm best face to face. I love seeing clients. I love meeting new clients. So I think if you can focus on what you're really, really good at and then task off the stuff that, anybody could do essentially. I mean, of course we all want the most amazing assistants, but if you can put that trust in somebody else to do that, I think you're definitely going to get ahead. So, I trust, my girl to run all my ads, my social media and retargeting. Now I just need to find the assistant that I can trust to do my scheduling.
Nice.
And paperwork.
Great tips.
Paperwork.
Yeah, I love the paperwork.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you. So like interacting with, multiple realtors per day, I'd assume, other realtors, like what's the one thing you wish realtors would stop doing? Like any pet peeves you have that other realtors do?
I'm going through a couple of transactions right now. One is I have an older realtor, and she's not responding to, here's our deadline, 6 p.m. last night. And then I have my buyer saying, have you heard anything? Well, no, she is going to respond, but she's late. So I just find that just looks bad on me then with my client, and I have no control over that. So for other realtors, I just wish it's like, stay professional. Please stay professional. And then in my market, because there's 200 agents up on the coast, but probably only 100 of them are properly active, i.e. they don't have 3 jobs. I find that you've got to stay, cooperation is everything, right? So in Vancouver, an agent may do a transaction with a realtor and never do another one again in their career. But up on the coast, we're a small community. We know one another. We work together. We socialize together. So, as important as it is to have great client relations, it's just as important to have good realtor relations when you're in a small community like ours.
For sure. Absolutely. Professionalism is key. That's for sure. So Rachel, I do want to be mindful of your time. I do end off each chat with what I call the top 3. You ready?
Sure.
Absolutely. All right. Number one, your favorite business or real estate book?
Sure. So I read this book probably when I was 18 years old. It's called Losing My Virginity by probably a well-known guy, Richard Branson. I have idolized this man since I was probably 6-7 years old. Growing up in England, watching him jump out of balloons and doing all of his crazy stuff, and I just thought, wow, this guy is something else, and he doesn't live within a box. And that's kind of how I've treated my business. I've always thought outside the box. So I just find him a great idol. So it's a great read for anybody that just wants a bit of inspiration and to get their head back into a sort of creative mindset.
Nice. Love it. Number 2, your favorite vacation spot?
I would have to say probably southern Spain. My brother moved there 30 years ago. He actually sells real estate in Spain, but we have a family home there, and it's just a beautiful place. The Spanish people are lovely, whitewashed villages, and I speak 0 Spanish, so I love putting myself out there and trying to figure it out. But I love southern Spain and Malaga for...
Malaga, okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask. Perfect. And if you can go back, what's the one thing you wish you knew when you were just starting out in real estate?
So I would say there's this sort of phrase that I learned early on. RE/MAX does a really good job of these conventions in Vegas, and I went before I was even licensed. Actually, I went as a guest, and I saw this one guest speaker in. He was like, you need to find your tribe. And I heard it, but I didn't really hear it, if you know what I mean. And then sort of 6 months on, a year on, I really started to understand it. So what he was sort of pertaining to is that finding my tribe means that, not everybody is for you. And that's okay. Like, we all go out there, we meet other realtors and they're really miserable. And you're like, who's going to pick that realtor? And then you realize, actually, other miserable people who are unhappy with life. And so I soon realized, I was like, you know what? It's great. Like now when my phone rings, it's typically, people who have my similar personality and we get along. So trust in that, like trust in the fact that not everybody is going to be your client, and that's okay. And if you make a bad judgment, it's okay to say goodbye to a client. So I've just learned that recently, and it's like, I suddenly feel lighter and happier. So there you go.
Very good. Awesome. Great advice. Great insights. And where's the best place to find you if someone wants to get in touch, especially your blogs? I definitely want to add those to the show notes.
Sure, absolutely. So obviously, online, racheldempster.com. Anything with Facebook, Instagram, my handle is at Rachel on the Coast. And yeah, send me a message if you've got any questions. I'm happy. I get quite a few realtors asking me some advice. I'm happy to pass anything along.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Honestly, I hope we can definitely do this again sometime.
Oh, thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.
And when I do make it out to the Sunshine Coast, we'll definitely have a coffee or a drink.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We've got a whole beer farm thing happening out there, so we can go for beer.
Sounds good. I'll take you up on
Awesome.
that. All right, Rachel.
Cheers.
Thanks so much again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Top Agent Podcast by Web for Realty. By the way, we're providing exclusive promos to our listeners. Visit webforrealty.com/topagent and get your first month on us. That's webforrealty.com/topagent to get your first month of service completely free. Until next time, over and out. Peace.